Highest to Lowest is a Spike Lee directed film starring Denzel Washington as David King. He is a music mogul who is setting up an important deal with his company, a music label, and everyone always tries to, get into his face, trying to get discovered. He's got a beautiful, loving wife and a son, Trey. However, Trey is kidnapped. The kidnappers want $17.5 million in Swiss francs, or they will take Trey's life. So now he's put into a large crime thriller situation where the police are called. This movie is a bit of a misfire for Spike Lee, and I'd like to say that I think he's lost his touch a little bit. It might be a little bit harsh, but his last narrative film was Da Five Bloods, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. This movie is definitely in the same vein. Spike Lee hasn't written a solo film since the 90s, and he usually works on a film with different writers. However, this script by Alan Fox is I don't know if he's a new writer or a pseudonym, but it's not that good. And there's a lot of, sure, the script has some faults, but also there's some directing stuff going on too that Spike Lee isn't involved with. Spike Lee hasn't worked with Denzel Washington since Inside Man, so this one reunites the two, and the movie is very uneven. It's funny when it shouldn't be. It's supposed to be like a Syrian crime thriller drama film about ambition, about loyalty, about all sorts of little topics thrown in there, from AI to social media cancellations to new generation versus old generation inheriting things like that. But the movie is a kind of a jumbled mess. David King is wonderfully played by Denzel Washington, and I'll watch him in anything, and he's great in the role. But I found myself enjoying just the boring stuff, the family stuff, him just doing fundraising with his wife, him just dealing with like music people, learning about new talent. All the family drama stuff's enjoyable. Whenever the movie tries to do crime thriller stuff, first off, the movie doesn't show half of it. We don't get to see Trey's kidnapping. We don't get to see we get to see the ransom call, but we don't get to hear it. They don't show anything like the aftermath of like how they like catch him. And then the worst part is that the cop stuff is super cliche. We introduce 3 detectives. One of them is played by Dean Winters, and he's just like overly angry at everyone for no reason. He's always telling people to shut up, and maybe it's the Islamophobia in there, but it's just really like out of place. And they start introducing elements that don't exist in real life, so it makes it feel kind of like almost a sci-fi. And then there's a scene where David shouts, "This is 2025, so it's not the future." And so the ransom drop-off scene is so unrealistic. I can't get into it because I don't want to tell, but it happens during like public transit and during a parade, and it's just the most poorly written scene, hard to take it seriously. Whenever the cops aren't on screen, it's an enjoyable film, but whenever they are, they're being cliche, they're not listening to people, they're just being really overly antagonistic towards characters for no reason, not being efficient. I think it might have been social commentary from the writer, but the movie also tries to tackle other topics that just get thrown in there, like shitting on the Boston Celtics, AI usage in music, and police work, weird little being canceled on social media. All sorts of little weird things get thrown in there, and they don't always work. And sometimes the dialogue scenes can be very corny or on the nose, very on the nose dialogue that just makes you kind of roll your eyes or laugh awkwardly. The movie's also super long too. It's a little over 2 hours. It's only a good 17 minutes shorter than High and Low. And I need to talk about that. So the original novel that both the Kurosawa film and this one is called King's Ransom by Ed McBain. It's like a pulpy crime thriller novel. Now, Akira Kurosawa already adapted a really solid film that came out over 50 years ago, and that movie's really good still. It holds up, even though it's long and it's in Japan instead of America. Spike Lee's version goes back to America, but honestly, some of the cultural differences don't make sense. They change a lot of the plot details for the second half and make it really weird, and some of the stuff just didn't flow right. A$AP Rocky was okay. He's barely in the movie. He's the villain who kidnaps the people, and he only gets like 1 or 2 scenes at the end of the movie, so solid performance because he's playing a rapper. He is a rapper, so that's fine. Everyone else does a pretty good job. You've got Jeffrey Wright in there. But overall, I just felt the movie was a jumbled mess. Whoever wrote it didn't really do their... I don't know if they're trying to base it off of the book, but the book is also really old. It came out in the, I think, 1959 or something like that. So High and Low only came out in 1963. So it's been over 50 years, and they really haven't found a good way to update it or change things. Technology sort of makes things a lot different, because in the Kurosawa film, they had to use like normal police work. They didn't have like fingerprinting technology. They didn't have drones. They didn't have all that stuff. It was just all just manpower. So this new film really doesn't tackle, you know, how they wouldn't be able to find him so quick with social media, with how did they kidnap Trey from the thing. It didn't seem realistic at times. It just felt really awkward. So even though I love Denzel Washington, and I like Spike Lee, he just kind of like should have maybe put his hand a little bit more on this script a little bit, or fine-tuned it more to make it more balanced, because half the film is enjoyable, but the crime thriller stuff is just really bad. So I give highest to lowest a 5 out of 10.